My editor tried to get me to take the knockwurst out, and I snuck it back in. I called the printer, literally. In Indiana. I still make print books in Indiana. So, moving ahead, I think you'll pick up on this. I'll just read a couple more. Kat refused to live in the dorms. What am I, a lab rat? She smelled, her name's Kat, but yeah. She smelled of lip gloss and sweat. Amazing and also deeply disturbing how fast two near strangers can go from Chinese food to a wrestling-ish tussle on a worn-out rug in an attic room amid the trees. Her walls were practically all window. No furniture, only the bed they weren't using. Skin that seemed as far away as, say, an hour ago, the Yukon Territories is right here beneath his shocked fingers. His entire body, led by his still blue-jeaned pelvis, in a state of ecstatic flux, now spastically, aimlessly, freakishly thrusting a twitch. Oh, shit. No, shit. To distract, to buy time, to cover off, to ward off the unward-offable. He clutches her and tells her this stuff about the Yukon Territories. Isn't it amazing how a clothed person is another country? For instance, earlier today, to me, you were just, your body was the Yukon Territory, Canada's northernmost. Are you a little repressed or something? She reached inside his boxers, his heart banged deep in the well of his ear. Oh, I get it. Just give me a little time. You know what you need to do? Just a little time. Grip yourself. You want to cut off the blood flow like a tourniquet. Plus, you probably enjoy it. Please stop talking. It's called shunting, Kat said. I'm begging you. I'm only trying to impart some friendly advice. Do you do this with everybody? What? Give this sort of advice. After a lunch date, come back to your place and... Are you a monumental prick? Metaphorically speaking, since as far as I can tell. Kat rolled over and pushed the hair out of her eyes and began sliding down rug. Describe the attic room with windows on three sides, her on that frayed rug, his ecstasy, his shock, his humiliation, his what? The dappled afternoon light, the tall oaks lurking outside like voyeurs, her chin edging down his chest. Describe it, her chin. Why not just say happy for once? Why not just say joy? Joy as derived from the 13th century word originally connoting rejoice. Cool apartment, Popper connoted. Tongued his knee. Don't talk. Where have you been my entire life? She paused, looked up. You believe in that? And I'm going to read this for Joe Paterno. I didn't plan on this. It's called On Wisconsin. Joe Paterno, too bad. 14 years with the windshield, October, Michigan versus Wisconsin. 80,000 drunk fanatics bellowing for blood, nothing whatsoever at stake. Wisconsin's 1-7, the only team they beat is Northwestern. How to even begin to describe this ocean of complete idiots? Popper and Kat crunched, huddled, blanketed. Popper making a point of holding Stendhal up to his face. Watch the game, Kat says. The Charterhouse of Parma has more excitement in its pinky than anything in this entire stadium. Fabrizio's sleeping is more interesting. The public's tax dollars go to support this sort of quotidian stupidity. Do you have any idea how much Bo Schembechler gets paid? Have some more vodka. It's like a Nazi rally. Hitler entering liberated Vienna and the crowd goes wild for the Fuhrer. Anyway, you're from Wisconsin. She's from Wisconsin. Fuck yeah, Badgers, she says. And the voice is lost in the crowd, more white breath than words. Don't you need a hat, Popper says? Your eyes are going to splinter off. Kat raises the bottle to her lips and swigs, hands it to him. Drink the hooch, Popper. It's a kind of cold that merges people in the same way that two metal objects freeze together. You can't pry them apart until you inject heat. He thinks about how long it will take to warm them up in that treehouse room, how his feet, even in the morning, will still be cold. And he thinks of her hungover breathing, her mouth open, her eyes half open. And he takes another view of his brethren. Humanity encapsulated in this great oval of inanity, and yet he could love these people. every million one of them he could. And please, Cat said, please do not use the word quotidian in ordinary conversation. Cat hiccups vodka and he thinks this, and ends with the song. I'm Wisconsin, plunge right through that line. I'm going to read one more. I know it's hot. Is everyone okay?
Yeah.
All right. I don't want to do that like reading thing where like, should I read more? And then like, everyone's like, to be polite, you say yes, even though you want to just go home. So, but I am going to read just to.
Don't stop.
Serious, but you already. This is so the book just goes around in time, and I'm not going to explain it. I'm just going to do it. But Cat and Popper stick together, and this is after college. It's got a kind of a complicated structure, even though it's really simple. So I really made it more difficult than I needed it to be. They were awarded Bachelors of Arts degrees of dubious worth in a packed basketball stadium with 12,000 others. Stand up, graduates. Sit down, graduates. Congratulations. The guy who made the big show gave a speech. You just experienced the very best years of your entire lives, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Popper announced it, not surprisingly, utterly insipid. 19,000 and something other people wept and hugged. They moved to their own place in Chicago, to an apartment in Wicker Park, just about the time it was beginning to be ruined by people like them. God, did they hate themselves. Down the street, the O'Hare, Congress, Douglas trains clacked and shuddered, and Cat would put on Curtis Mayfield and waggle around the apartment singing educated fools from uneducated schools. And she'd say, if people only listened to Curtis Mayfield, if Curtis Mayfield was president or king or secretary general of the UN, then even yuppie wannabe scum like us could be forgiven for triggering higher rents. All their kitchen chairs were unmated. They were proud of this. This is the kind of people we are. Cat liked to collect shadeless lamps, and they crowded the apartment like the skeletons of thin dead men, their little bald heads. Thanksgiving of that year, Popper went down the street to the park and played football with some neighborhood kids. It was tackle, and those local boys merrily womped his ass. The ground was hard as a parking lot, and he came home wearing crumbly November dirt, his face bleeding. Cat had bought an enormous turkey at the Jewel, and it sat uncooked on the table, and she was lying on the floor beside the table, staring at the ceiling. "What is basting anyway?" she said. "My head's bleeding." "Something tells me you have to cook it first, baste it second, but really I have no idea. It could just as well be the other way around." Cat reached and opened the cabinet door beneath the sink. She pulled out a can of Ajax and held it to the ceiling like an offering. "Who is Ajax anyway?" she said. "A warrior god. And now he's a scouring powder? Is that a success?" "Why don't you call your mother and ask her how to make the turkey?" Popper said. Cat talked to the Ajax. "You call your mother. She's in Tibet," Popper said, "or somewhere. I think she and Ralph went to Tibet. Don't you care what happened to my head? They really whoop it up, those two, don't they? After my dad, wouldn't you? What was so bad about him?" "Nothing so bad, really. But it was like he never saw us. Or he saw us too much. No, we never saw him. But that's because he made himself so hard to see, so we looked right through him. Does that make any sense?" "No. He hit my mom once, or tried to. I can't even remember anymore. There should be more than one word for remember. He hit your mom? We're quiet people. Middle-class people. Slightly uppish middle-class people. My father ran for office. He's a well-regarded attorney. My mother for years with the most popular substitute teacher on the North Shore. So he hit her. I won't be taking further questions from the press at this time." "Well, he's alone now," Cat said. "Mostly," Popper said. The turkey reposed on the kitchen table, pink and dead and huge. Popper, silent, his face bleeding. He looked out the window at the leafless trees, stark and empty. November, always his favorite, an orphan sort of month. "Whoop," Popper said. "Whoop," Cat said. "Our supper is plain, but we are very wonderful." Who said that? A forgotten poet. And Cat in shorts in November, lying on her back, her strong, freckle pale legs. Cat, remember? Remember how that fat thing sat on the kitchen table through the night, through the weekend, into Monday, before it turned greenish? And just gonna read one more short piece. Tiny little piece. The book kind of starts with these guys and slowly ends with them. The middle is other stuff. Other families, the family. 1233 North Damon. Just after dawn, bumbling to the toilet, he finds Kat alone at the kitchen table and shards of broken plate at her feet, the refrigerator door open. "What is it?" he said. "My mother always said she felt better after she broke a few plates." "Better about what?" "I don't know." Kat stands and circles the little kitchen rug, careful to avoid the shards. She watches her feet in the ash light. Her toes head in the wrong direction. Dancer's feet, she calls them, though she was never a dancer. She played soccer in high school. F. Scott Fitzgerald was ashamed of his feet also, Popper said. He wore shoes 2 sizes too big to make up for what he thought. "Where'd you get the idea I was ashamed of my feet?" "You're not? Ashamed of my feet? Ashamed of something. What aren't I ashamed of?" Don't confuse us with each other, Popper. So, I'll stop there.